All right.
Pledge of allegiance. Yeah. Go ahead.
Of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trying to turn the volume down.
Mine's on. My computer.
The technical difficulty straightened out. Oh. All right, all good? All right, we're going to call the October 6, 2021 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. We'll start off with the minutes. Does everybody get a chance to take a look at the?
I did, and I had some corrections for Heather the first day, and she made them. So.
Okay, good, September, yeah, so we'll hear a motion to move the September 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve September 1st, and if you want to do September 15th.
Yeah, we can do it at the same time. Both.
I'll second.
All right, Josh, Tom seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Financial reports. We've got payroll warrant number 15.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll warrant 15, and I guess you want to do 16?
We can do 16 together. There's
16,
no reason not
15
to,
and
yeah.
16.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
We'll expedite that. Mark seconds. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, motion carries there. And AP 17.
I'll move that we approve it, AP 17.
Tom's going to move that one. I'll second AP 17.
I am going to abstain because I think there's a family member business getting paid on that.
Alrighty,
so.
so any discussion? All those in favor?
I got a
Oh,
question.
sorry, Mark. Yep.
I got it actually for Hugh. On the rental of the excavator, could you fill us in on what you did for that, for the 2,700, 20?
I started out cleaning out the ditch line from Dave Cove all the way back through to behind the grocery store, right up to the corner of the lumberyard. That's as far as I could get without matting. And I probably dropped that water maybe 10, 12 inches. It really needed it. That
Did-
took several days.
My question would be, did you get DEP approval?
It's a drainage ditch.
Do we have an easement through there?
Is it what? I'm
We
sorry.
didn't,
Is there an easement through there?
when I
or
did
no?
it
Yeah,
10 years
there's,
ago,
well,
I
it'd be a prescriptive easement for drainage, just like coming down from, up above Church and Chapman. It's a prescriptive easement.
I
Then I-
guess my concern is when we go across to private property to do work, we should
Uh-huh.
at least notify the owners of the property that this is taking place.
And we did. Mobius.
yeah, we did.
Now the coastal marketplace.
Well, cool. I didn't do anything except behind the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's
and I
their
hauled all
property.
that off, so I left it clean.
I think we should be looking closer at making sure the DEP is okay with what we're doing.
Okay.
That's all.
Then I changed the culvert on Egypt Road. And then I took and started building the little side road that the cemetery committee wants on Hillside, in Hillside. And then I also worked around the shop a little bit with the machine too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? All those in favor? All right, and
I'm
one
abstaining.
abstain, Josh abstains, okay. She's all yours. All right.
Did you have the minutes to sign as well?
Oh, they're right here. sorry, guys, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're right in front of me.
Hold them in front of you.
Signed and. Matt, we're gonna far as presentations go, we're gonna move right into Haas here, right? Okay. Haas, give us just a second here to get these finally set down here and we can have our full attention. How's that sound?
Oh, it's scary, man. How do I, okay. I'd like to share my screen if I can. Okay.
Mark.
Just a second. There we go. Okay.
Right. There. Yeah, we can see that, right? Yeah.
Do you want to pull
Yeah,
that
okay.
out a little on the right-hand side? The screen. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Lou,
Oh, that's better. Yeah,
I told them you were golfing.
No, I got
okay.
caught up in traffic.
So
Two accidents for you.
You want me to sign
let
the other
Tony get seated down here and
We'll let Lou get in here. and
Louis, I mean,
Sign those.
Louis.
Start with, oh, yeah, Haas is doing the presentation for you.
Great.
Just getting started, so.
Well, I'm gonna wait for Louis to sit.
I agree with
So-
what Rich says.
I'm here because I feel very deeply about what I'm to present. I feel it could be very important for the town. Although I've been laughed in other meetings for presenting what I'm presenting tonight. So just so you know. I believe that the town needs to take a careful look at this because I believe it's important for the future of the town. And I'll start by asking one question. What's the status of the Economic Development Council of the town? We've talked about it for the 11 years I've lived in town. We've been talking about it. But it's something that we try to develop and it doesn't really come to fruition. Is that true, Matt?
I don't know how hard we've tried to recruit volunteers. I've had a couple people over the years say that they would like to be on a economic development committee, but that interest has waned. Essentially, it's Bob Faunce and myself.
Yep. Well, I'm not questioning that. All I'm saying is we don't have one that's been working or thinking about problems of developing the town and the economic development. I just want to say that to start with. Now, I'm going to start with the assertion that our conversations about the wall have originated from a concern of the present we will lose. How do we minimize the loss of our view? Is that fair enough? And all I'm asking is for us to look at, well, I'm going to propose that we need community conversations about the future we want to live into. In other words, going forward and looking back and saying, what do we want to get to? This wall is going to go through several iterations over the next how many ever years. And so I'm suggesting that it would be very valuable for us to do that. All right. So that's where I'm going with this. So I have up there Economic Development Council. I'm going to make an assertion that if we had an Economic Development Council, they would be sitting here with me supporting the presentation I'm about to make. That's how important I feel this is in terms of a possible way for economic development for the town. All right. And an Economic Development Council is about how can we create a future for the town that otherwise isn't going to be. All right. So, and I'm raising the question, can we establish Democrata's prominence as a historic shipbuilding destination? And I'm going to assert that the golden days of Damariscotta were in the 1850s. And that's, if you look at population from 1860 on, it declined. It was highest then and declined up to 1920. 37%. The jobs and the whatever were here when they were building the big ships. So I'm going to assert that the Ocean Herald, the largest ship ever built here, is a proper symbol of our shipbuilding heritage and an important part of our history. Right? Okay. So we have a revitalized, really invigorated historic society. They're very interested in telling the stories of the people who worked and lived here. And I'm going to submit that shipbuilding is one of them. Have any of you built a boat?
I have not.
Have any of you put siding on a house?
Worked on plenty.
Yes.
Siding on a house, huh? So I once was in an Adirondack guide boat, where the boat was planked with cedar planks that were this size. They were a little thinner than this, but they were cedar planks, and they were held with bronze tacks about this long. All right. The guys who built the big ships here, the same kind of process. They were called plankers, and they put the planks on the side. Anyone tell me what the dimensions of a plank was? This is what they were trying to bend and fit to the side of the ship.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine one of these 20 feet long and trying to get it to curve? They must have used mules or horses.
Yeah.
You know, so these guys were not only superb carpenters because they were planing the edges to fit, but that's the kind of skill that was here in the 1850s. All right. And that's part of what I think is key to celebrate here. All right. Now the part where so the first question is, how do we get folks' attention? All right. The second part is, how do we tell the story? The second part is rather easy. We get the community involved, and how do we tell the story? And a revitalized historic society, and all of you and your what memories you have, so on. That's where telling the story comes from. But how do we get folks' attention? And how do we get them to come into town? How do you sell a steak? There's an old selling adage, you sell a steak by the sizzle. All right. How many of you have been drawn into a restaurant by what you smell on the sidewalk? That's the sizzle.
All day long downtown.
So the views of the sizzle I'm proposing. This is only to get people into town. It's only a beginning of telling the story. All right. I'm going to start with a view from Kamouraska. What you can see up there, I don't know. Can you see the brown ship hull?
Yeah.
That's to scale what the wall would look like at 5 feet if it was painted or it was finished to look like the hull of the ship. And I'm suggesting that that face of the wall become the ship and at the quay there, as though it was docked. All right. You'll notice that I have 3 masts there. I have the masts because that's the sizzle. And you'll see how that develops in a moment. I think we need to look seriously at this as an option because of what it can mean for the town. And that's why I'm here, guys. It's just, I want this to be taken seriously. And if we're going to look at it, even have a chance of looking at it, there's one thing we need in the next couple of months. That's why I'm here. Okay. So you can see the ship, you can see the bowsprit. And it would be regular wall, a different wall underneath it, okay? Underneath the bowsprit. So what I've done, I'm going to show you now the views of this from Taco Alley and from next to Daryl's Hangout. All right. So if I drive into Taco Alley and I don't stay at the top, but I go down till flat on the level and I take a picture, this is what it would look like with the masts. But you can see there's What surprised me was I thought more of the view would be obstructed. That we don't have water, but we have quite a bit of the view otherwise. All right. All right. Now, if we go forward to Darrell's place, this is what we see. The wall ends with the bowsprit in front of us. And then the representation of the Ocean Herald does. And then we have the regular wall continuum. Any questions or anything you want to say to me so far?
So your presentation has a 5-foot wall.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying we build that now, but I'm saying it's something to aim for. All right. I don't know where the community would want to go with this, Josh.
I'm just looking what to scale what you're.
Scale, you're right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I did. My intent was to make it the 5-foot wall. 13 feet above sea level. All right.
But
All right.
is that for just the hull shape, or would the wall that would carry on from the bow strip on be 5 foot as well?
Be what?
5 foot as
Oh,
well?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be 5 foot to take the business areas out of the
Oh,
floodplain.
I'm aware of that. Okay.
This is FEMA requirement.
Yeah.
I mean, for business to work, for people to sell property, buy property, we've got to take it out. It's got to be 5 feet.
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we come to the sizzle. From bypass Route 1, you can see the tops of the 3 poles as flagpoles with pennants, and the American flag flying at about where it would fly in a historic nautical display. All right. The American flag is down. It's actually off a gaff off the rear mast, but it's at about that level. When I showed this to some people, they say, are the masts really that high? If anything, these masts are lower in this depiction than they would be in the real thing. All right. Now I call this the Hesper and Luther Little view. Now, you know what I mean by Hesper and Luther Little, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, why do I call it that? In 1947, a 12-year-old who had never been to Maine was brought by his father, who grew up on a subsistence farm in Jefferson, to Maine for the first time. And as we drove through, guys.
Right.
As we drove through Wiscasset, I saw the Luther and the Hesper. The next year we come, I see it, and I say, now we're in Maine. Fast forward 20 years, in the 60s, I'm bringing my 4 kids, ranging in age from 5 to 10. And they are struggling to be the first one to see the Hesper and the Luther and shout, now we're in Maine. You get my point here. This is people would know it's identified Maine. Okay. And part of this, everyone agrees that we must retain integrity of the park. In previous times that I've talked about this, I picked up Barnaby was the guy who first suggested the Ocean Herald there years ago in different formats. We always had decks behind it that people could come up and sit on and would have interpretive material. I'm not proposing that. I'm proposing that there be nothing behind that wall. Nothing except the park, because we need to retain the integrity of that park. And I'll show you what this analysis revealed to me. You remember that you approved or you selected the first option for the park, concept 1. Okay. So I look at, if we take this picture and you can see the green of the park up there and you can see the wall on it. That park is much thinner than depicted in concept 1. We don't have the space to do all the stuff they have. They have 2 platforms in there with chairs on it or benches. And I'm for not having any platforms there at all, having seats or benches and have a trail, but have it so people can enjoy it. When I saw this, I said, my God, there's not enough space to do concept one. It's too wide. Concept one is too wide. All right. And that shows us, I think that demonstrates it clearly. So the proposal here is to look at having, from the Route 1, you see the flags, and from Main Street, you see coming down in the parking lot, you see the outline. And this is how big the Ocean Herald was. That's the point. It was 35 feet long. And the masts go up to 220, 230. The main mast.
Big ship.
You know? And so having nothing, and there are a number of questions we have to look into to do this, but there's one question we need to know the answers to, and time's running out on it. And I'm here to suggest that we have a conversation about this, a serious conversation, rather than just poo-pooing the idea, because I believe it to be a very powerful idea for Damascotta. Our main business is tourism. All right. Is that fair or not fair? Let me assert it and you guys can, okay. But this is a way of increasing tourism by anywhere from 5 to 18%. Or at least, and it's certainly increasing people's curiosity about Damascotta that otherwise might stop here on their way by. All right. So what we read right now from the consultants is if we would install 1, 2, or 3 foundations for flag poles that are 130 to 200 feet in height, while installing the wall, installing them separately, it doesn't make sense. The equipment you would have to have out there, et cetera.
Yeah.
If you install them while installing the wall, the cost would be minimal. At least I believe it would be. I'm not an engineer. There may be something that they could identify that would make it different. What would be the additional costs? Would they complicate or undermine the integrity of the wall? Might they strengthen the wall? Are there other reasons this is a bad idea or good idea? That's my question right now. My request right now is that we ask the consultants for that information. So we know whether this is just really a harebrained idea or it has some practical possibilities where we're at. Because if we're going to do this, we have to build the foundations when the wall goes in. That's the reason I'm here, guys. And that's the end of my formal presentation.
Haas, in your design on the wall, is that like a 3D design, or is that something that you'd have etched? We talk about form liners to make a shape or a texture. Is that what you're suggesting on the 5-foot wall would be like a?
There are people in this community more expert than me than to decide how that happens.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, we got all sorts of possibilities in terms of textures, colors, what have you. That's the consultants told us that.
Mhm.
How far did this get into your committee? Did it get recommended by the committee, the waterfront committee? Okay.
Well, you've been on all the.
Yeah, I think, you look at the written minutes and the recordings of the meetings that we have online, and this was not an idea embraced by the committee.
But this is the first time it's been presented from this perspective of an economic development council.
Yeah, and I also believe we do have some height restrictions. Height restrictions in the town of Damascotta,
Hey, there are all sorts of questions would have to be.
and we need to look at that.
You're right, Josh. There's a lot that needs to be looked at. My concern right now is if we let the next 3 months go by, then we won't have the option of looking at it at all.
Yeah, I just have some concerns about having 130 to 200 foot, three poles going up in the air in Damascotta, right on the shoreline.
I understand.
So,
I understand. And all I'm asking is that we take a look at it and understand whether there's something here that can work for us or not,
I
and
think,
whether we want it or not.
and I think by, just having 3 poles of a normal size it's going to accomplish kind of what we want.
It accomplished part of it, right?
but I think
won't-
that 200
won't
foot
be-
is a little bit too high for me.
It won't be waving to the people on Route 1, hey, come down and visit me, learn what I'm about. It won't be doing that, which is why an economic development council would be interested in the concept. It then becomes the sizzle. If you make them just normal height, you've lost the sizzle.
Well, I think we've got quite a bit of sizzle in the town of
I'm not
Damascotta.
questioning that.
So, and I think I'm all about practicality.
So am I.
And I'm trying to hone in on what dollar amounts we have to work with and prioritize our infrastructure within that area.
Well, here's the thing,
And
Josh.
that is not part of my thought at this time.
Okay. Well, here's my take on that. I believe that we can raise from other sources, any money that's involved in doing this. It's because I don't see the cost to be that much. The flagpoles and those lengths are off the shelf items. You go online and you pick your length and they'll ship it to you. And these 3 poles are between the cost of $25,000 and $38,000 a piece. And if people want to do this, that money will get raised. That's why I'm not worried about the money just now. I feel it's important to look at the concept and look at whether it works or not and what the issues are, independent of funding. Because I see,
I just have a problem that we haven't even discussed as a board, the concept that got presented to us last Tuesday, let alone to come here tonight and have another concept presented to us.
I don't see that I'm presenting another concept. I'm just,
I think where where Josh is going with that is we still have an issue with the, we haven't determined if the wall is going to be a solid 5 feet yet.
well, I know that.
That's where
And I'm not suggesting that in the near future. I said, where do you want to be going forward with this?
you're suggesting us, we'll say, I'm not taking words out of your mouth, but prepare for possibly. From this slide here, you're looking at maybe, all right, if we put the foundations in and prepare.
If you don't put the foundations in, you have killed the option going forward.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm here.
What were some of the objections of your committee if they didn't support it?
I don't know that I can list objections per se. Some of them have been echoed here. I mean, it's like, what world do you live in? Okay.
Well, I want to say, I tend to agree with you that something that would resurrect the history, the shipbuilding industry would be helpful to tourism. There's no question in my mind.
Well, it would also
But
be,
what
it's-
form
it's-
that takes is another matter, but
it's also something that I think would provide a platform and inspiration for the revitalized historical society. And shipbuilding is, well, let's go on to the next slide. The largest ships in Damascotta were built in the 1850s. That's a sampling of them. You'll see the ocean and their tonnage. They were measured by tonnage. Okay. And you have the Damascotta census. You can see the population maxed at 1860. So that decade. Okay. Now, I think it was Chatham. I don't have the quote right here, but I'm going to paraphrase it. Talking about the workmen, when the whistle blew for lunch, the streets were filled like an army marching through it, leaving to go home to get the dinner, the middle of the day meal. Whether you call it dinner or lunch. Back then it was dinner. It was always in my ancestors' family. Dinner was the middle of the day meal. There's a story to be told here that I don't know that it's told anywhere in Maine. And I'm just saying, well, okay, this is the only part of that. I'm telling the story. Let's leave to the townspeople that have memories in the historical society. I'm not going to try and tell the story. What I'm concerned is we have a way of getting people's attention that would tell the story, they'd know what it's about. And it's in the next, that's why I've asked for this information. So we know, Josh, I may be totally out of my gourd. This may be, in terms of what the engineers tell us, it may make absolutely no sense. But we don't know that.
Daryl? I could just.
Oh, go ahead, Matt. Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the idea of having something that represents the rich maritime history of Damascotta has been something that the committee has discussed from way back when,
Right.
when we were first meeting. I had my suggestion, but let that, roll with the process here. But I think that there's been a lot of interest recently in that concept of having history portrayed in the design of the park. And there's Haas's idea, and I've heard several others.
Exactly.
Just in the last few weeks, which I think is really exciting. We don't have the money for that, but maybe that will come with when the idea, comes to fruition, or when it gets to the conceptual stage. I asked Jan Wegman, the engineer on the project, whether we could have some time for a committee, and this wouldn't be an ongoing committee. This would be more like just a sounding board group. If that group could meet with their park architect to come up with some ideas on how, we can have a practical quality park, but incorporate some of these ideas. And he said, yes, there is time to do that. And what I would like to do, or have the board do, is select some folks to serve on that committee and meet with the architect via Zoom or whatever, come back with their suggestions, and have the professional looking at it and saying how this can be incorporated. I am sure this with Haas. We don't want to pretend to create a theme park.
Oh, no way.
And so I think an attempt to try to replicate the Hesper and the Luther Little. I'm not terribly enamored with that idea. I don't think that would be good for the waterfront, but there are other ideas that I think are in this idea are something that we should look at, and that the architect can tell us how practical they are. So that's my suggestion, is to have this group meet with the architect via Zoom or whatever to kind of hammer these things out.
So my question,
Fair enough.
can we get answers to these questions? It may kill the proposal totally, but if we have them, then at least we can continue the conversation of whether we really want to have this, or we really want something much simpler and what have you.
Yeah, there's a couple, right, there's a couple questions here, Haas. So initially, it's cost, always cost first.
It's what?
Cost.
Oh, yeah.
Initially it's cost, and then the second question is, would the town, the taxpayers or the folks in the town go for it?
Well,
And, I almost, it's a grand scale, and I don't know if it might be too much, to sell to the townspeople, as a, I don't want to use, the term of like a theme park. It's not a theme park, but it's a very, very large scale project,
I
almost
understand
towering over the brick and the downtown buildings, and it might not be, scale wise, it might be too much.
it's also very skeletal, very simple.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and on purpose. I mean, it's not, except for those tall masts. Well, those tall masts aren't even like a Disney theme park.
Yeah.
They're just there with pennants at the top. That's all to indicate. You see, without the masts, you don't have the height of the ship. You only have the length.
Yeah.
That's all you got. You're not going to have the width because you don't have room for it in the park. The way initially Barnaby's proposal was to have half the deck. All right. Well, we don't want that. We want a natural park.
No,
there.
we want the green space. I think everybody wants to.
So Matt, what would it cost to talk to the architects or the engineers about it? Would they charge us for a meeting?
No, that's included in their process already. And, I guess I would say there has not been support for this idea of the tall masts. So I wouldn't have the consultant pricing the options until we have some type of consensus if that's what we want to do.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, but, yeah, this would be
That's fair
included in the $400,000
Yeah.
price that we're already paying the consultants.
Well, is there general agreement on the board that it's worth looking at some option that would celebrate the shipbuilding industry and history here?
I think it's a good idea. I mean.
Yes,
As
definitely.
as far as these, Matt suggested a few select people talking to the architects, yes. But, on Hosta's side, we're looking at some massive engineering questions that go beyond the architectural side of it. They go into, the design of the
Well-
wall and a lot of changes there. So, yeah,
If I may,
yeah, go ahead, Hosta.
I don't think they're massive engineering. As a guy who designed curricula for engineers at the university level, and knowing what you train, how engineers are trained, I would guess that the additional costs are going to be minimal. But I don't know that, and I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking this
Fair
question.
enough.
That's why that slide is up there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to, and the point is this. I spent a part of my career. My clients were Fortune 500 executives. And they were asked, depending on me, to tell them what technology was going to mean to them 10 and 20 years out. How many of you have a cell phone? When did you get it? What year did you get your cell phone in?
Been a while.
Well, did you have it in the year 2000?
I had it long before then.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I
I
did.
had it in 2000.
Bag- the old bag
2000,
phone.
2005?
Yeah.
Anyone before 2000?
Yeah. I
I had a
did.
bag
Can't
phone.
remember the old bag phones.
Hmm?
Yeah.
I had an old bag phone.
Okay.
Yep.
So my clients, I was paid to give my Fortune 500 clients this insight on what technology would mean to them. Guess what year they saw and heard their first cell phone?
My grandfather had one.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, it must have been in the early 80s.
1983.
Yeah. At the wreck.
Yeah.
The senior vice president
Yeah.
of Motorola.
It was 2000.
Right.
Yep.
I had a meeting with 200 executives and their managers with them. And I introduced him and he stood, and you heard the phone in the middle of the audience and he stood up. And they heard a conversation between him and Keystone, Colorado, and his secretary in suburban Chicago.
Yep.
All right. So all I'm saying is, back in the day, I trusted my gut on all kinds of stuff like this, and that's the reason I'm here. And I thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you. Horace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I- Yeah, I would like to ask a member of the public, Sari, wants to do something, I know, with that wall. What do you think of this concept and this idea?
I love
Do
it.
we need the mic over there?
Do you think there would be
Yeah.
public support for this?
I definitely do believe it would be public.
There you go.
supported. Thank you. Hi, I'm Shari Sage and I'm a member of the Waterfront Improvement Project Committee.
Mhm.
You get the gist if that's not the formal name. We did discuss several times about including our history, our boat building history. I mentioned in reference to, and I really am struggling with the exact location, but in Booth Bay, if you've been there, they have, but this is in the ground, they have a massive mosaic diorama with whales. And I mean, it's just beautiful and wonderful. And I was thinking maybe something small like that for Taco Alley, just a little bit of zip in the wall. If it's not more of a pattern that relates to this shipbuilding or the ship that we're famous for, at least a history diorama in mosaics. Possibly we get an artist who'd be willing to contribute to the design and the overseeing of it. I think it would be very prestigious to have your name associated with this event. So everyone on the committee has always supported attaching our boat building history to this wall or to the improvement of the project downtown. I think this is great. I think it's also going to be less of a future taxpayer expense than adding a little bit of glass block. I think long-term, like what Haas is saying, I'm really trying to envision the integrity of this wall way past my lifetime. And what Haas is suggesting would make that very possible. So even futuristically, if we had to keep adding to it, I don't think this design would be tough to keep blending in. And during the, at the library, one of the textures on the walls that was shown, it was simple, but the design element they had used in the, what was it, a concrete, whatever, it was wonderful looking. And I think you could use that to really detail the ship without compromising the integrity of the wall. So I love this idea. If anybody has been to the Maritime Museum in Bath, they have that skeletal ship. Does anybody else recall this?
Yep.
And it's adorable. To say it's adorable. It is inspirational. I think it's unique. It makes its statement without killing the view that's behind it. So along those lines, I don't see anything that's that contradictory to these flagpoles. Again, structurally, yes, etc. But I think it's a win-win. And I also think it's, whatever it is we're going to do, I think it's one of the least expensive and taxpayer long-term. Especially, there's quite a few folks that don't want to see their taxes go up for something they're not going to utilize. But I think they would appreciate the tourist draw or the property value of being a nice, unique, a little bit of a twist for a reason to somebody to come and patronize our unique restaurants as opposed to restaurant chains. So I'm jazzed. I really like this idea. I'm not quite sure I got the gist of Haas's point about the park, because out of the three designs, we did have one that we all liked a lot. Haas, were you saying we had to alter that or cut it down? Because I don't see why we need to do that.
What I'm saying is the concept one, as the way it's drawn by the consultants. Concept one, the way it's drawn by the consultants is wider. The distance between the wall and the green that they show in the concept is almost, some places twice as wide as we actually have. That's why I put the wall in here, and so it's 2 feet. It's 2 feet wide. The base of it is 2 feet from the parking edge, which is a 2 feet wide wall, so that we could see the green. And it is quite narrow. And if you recall the other night, the restrictions on widening that by going out into, and looking at how do you build that up and make it so that you have as much park and green as possible. And all I'm saying is when I did this, I looked at it, said, my God, that is a lot narrower than depicted in concept one. That's my concern.
At this time, we do not have funds in which to accomplish this. The only way it can be accomplished is if the general public takes and supports it and provides the funding for it. I think
No.
that's the only way it can be done.
I understand.
Yeah.
All I'm requesting now, I don't think it's gonna, I may be totally wrong, Matt, but I don't think it's gonna cost much to get answers to the questions.
In that case, I would like to make a motion that we have the questions that Haas has provided answered.
Second,
So we're looking at, Lou, you made a motion, yeah, to move, okay, the integrity of the
Yep.
wall.
I don't think it's going to cost us that much.
The
Matt,
question-
Answer
Matt
the
just said it won't
questions.
cost us anything.
Is this something?
Well, I don't want,
Yeah.
as I said, there are a number of ideas.
Yeah.
This one has been discussed
Yeah.
and rejected by a committee. Now,
Um,
if you'd like to have our consultant price those, then that's gonna, come off the work time that
Yeah.
they've agreed to provide us.
And that's
We'll
my,
have-
my concern. Matt, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask you this thing. Now we're putting on Wright Pierce to go back to the drawing board.
No,
We don't want to do that.
No.
I'm sorry,
Well-
I'm confused. I don't recall us rejecting it.
go back and listen to the recordings of the meeting, Shari, and I don't want to put down Haas's comment, but it was not approved by the committee.
Oh.
They said, no, let's move on. You can look at the minutes, you can look at the recordings of the meetings, but again, I appreciate the enthusiasm that's coming out now for this idea, especially from the Historical Society. I guess my only point was, and then I'll be
No.
quiet, but my only point was, why focus in on this one idea when there are quite a few? Why not have this group of people who have interest in the historical significance and having that represented on our waterfront? Why not have them meet with the architect and come up with a concept that then should be priced and then put forward? That's my only point.
May I, Daryl?
Yeah, go ahead, Haas. Yeah.
Matt, I'm totally in favor of having an open conversation about the various options. That's part of if you'll recall, that was how do we tell the story? That's on the second point, the bottom of the slide. How do we tell the story? That and whether we do this concept with the masks or without, or what have you, that's part of how do we tell the story in the community. To your point,
Okay.
the community needs to be involved in that conversation. The reason I'm raising this now, the only reason is because, oh shoot, no, wait a second. What did I do here? Oh me.
Well, let me, hang on a second, Haas. Now, Lou, you still have a motion on the table. You
Yes,
still carry.
and it's been seconded.
Okay, it's been seconded. All right. Still continue with that motion, so we'll
Yes.
move through. So
well, let me ask a clarifying question. Going back to what Matt said earlier, I was thinking we were going to have a meeting with the consultants and we would discuss this idea along with any of the other ideas that the committee has considered and get their reaction in terms of costs, not an actual engineering cost, but generally saying, this is going to be a heck of a lot more expensive, or this is not going to be feasible. I don't see why the engineers, I mean, this is not terribly complicated. We're not building a rocket ship here.
Yeah.
I don't see why the engineers during a meeting can't give that kind of feedback. So you can narrow down the number of choices and say, oh, this is off the wall. This is not going to work. This might work. You guys come back to us with these three. We can do any one of these three for a reasonable cost or whatever. But I don't see why they can't give a reaction in terms of, no, maybe not definitive as that calls for, but general reaction as to whether it's practical, whether it's exorbitant,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, just one practical thing that occurred to me is that over a certain height, you gotta have a blinking light on it. I think it's
Yeah.
like you have on the, you know, the
Height
telecom
restrictions that
towers.
Josh mentioned. Yeah.
So I mean, there's some, those issues, but I think we generally, it seems like the discussion has led to a general agreement that there's enough interest to celebrate the shipbuilding industry, and the form it takes is the only issue. So if we can have a reasonably inexpensive or free conversation with designers, telling them this is the, you know, our interest, our goal. What do you think about some of these ideas? I think we ought to go forward with that.
So Lou's motion right now is specific to this.
Right.
And are you still seconding that, Tom, or do you?
No, well, I mean, I'm trying to tone it down to say, we're not looking for an engineering estimate here. That would be costly, but reaction to whether these things are practical or not.
So we need,
Yeah, that's-
well, we need to
That's right.
either second this motion or remove the second and do another motion or.
So I guess
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to, you know, here we are talking about adding modifications to a design that we've yet to talk about. That was talked about last Tuesday. And here we are again, trying to redesign something we haven't talked about. So I guess I always thought we were going to incorporate our maritime history and shipbuilding history into this whole project. I did not understand that we were going to put 200-foot masts in the air. I'd like to sit as a board to discuss the proposal that was brought to us before we move anything else further. So I will vote no on this.
So
Well, that's what I was trying to clarify right now. If we still have a motion, Lou's made a motion
Well, there's a motion on the floor, so you'd have to, you should vote on it.
and
get
you,
it off the
but you're
floor.
still seconding this motion, Tom.
No, I'd try to add clarification to it.
If you,
so
well,
I'll
if you
retract-
withdraw your second,
I'll
then there's no
withdraw it.
motion.
I'll withdraw it.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
okay, so we can move on.
I kind of agree with Josh. We haven't decided what we're going to do. But when we decide what we're going to do, we have to look at the possibilities of something like this. Because once we decide on something, anything else is gone. You can't do, you really can't make any major changes.
Well, Matt, yours, I don't know the rest of the board, but your suggestion of having a few people and a few ideas, I think that carries along with what Josh suggested. We're getting maybe the cart ahead of the horse, so to speak. Until we, yeah,
I don't think that is correct, because if this is something that can be done, if we go ahead without considering what's going to happen to this, the plan will not allow it.
that's the point.
That's the point.
That's the only reason I'm here is
So-
because of the
right.
timing.
We're going to go with a 5-foot wall right now.
No.
If we're
that's
gonna-
not-
if we're
no,
gonna-
we don't know
No,
that.
no,
We're going to
no.
incorporate
No.
Haas's design.
I'm
we're
not-
gonna look into
no,
it. It's going to
no,
a 5-foot
no.
wall.
I'm not in
We're
favor of a
just looking-
5-foot wall.
Yeah.
We still could do what we had talked about and what seemed to come out of that group meeting that we had at the theater, which
Yeah.
is a 3-foot wall with a temporary thing that could be installed in the case we have a flood. I mean, that's still what we can't do. General consensus out of that meeting. It doesn't preclude this at all. I don't think.
I don't.
well,
May I clarify a couple
Yeah.
of things?
yes, us, yeah.
Because I feel like I'm being misunderstood here.
Yeah.
I brought this up simply because whether it's 3 months or 6 months from now, this option is dead. All right?
Yeah.
In terms of my experience over years ago, how do you create sizzle to sell something? This is the best idea I've seen in the years I've been here at Damascotta. That's why I'm here. Because and your points are all taken. Yes, they might have to be beacons on the top. Yes. The one thing that I don't agree with is that the town doesn't have the money. The town may not have the money, but I think this will be paid for by contributions and by what have you, not by town money. So, and that's my anticipation in a way, if it gains enough, if it even gains some momentum. clearly it doesn't even have traction among you at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about the money yet.
Well, there's some people out in the community that I have a hard time describing a 3-foot wall that don't want a wall at all. So.
Well, I understand.
So, I mean, if you add in a replica ship with a 200-foot mast, how are you going to try to sell that product to somebody that doesn't
Well,
want a wall?
look. We are right now where the community is coming to grips with this, right? We don't know how this, I'm saying, look at how we want to evolve over the next, some people are saying 50 years, 70 years. I will say 20 to 50 years, because I'm watching what's happening with the melting of the ice in Antarctica. Question. We've got estimates of how high the seals rise by 2050, right?
Yep.
They're numbers that are used by FEMA and the Corps of Engineers, or the Army Corps of Engineers. These numbers are legal tools that, for example, if they are adhered to, you get to reduce your insurance premiums, et cetera. They're legal tools that were produced by a political process. They are not scientific predictions. When I look at what's happening with the melting, I am really concerned. If all the ice on Antarctica were to melt and all the ice on Greenland were to melt, how high would the sea rise?
We don't need a wall at that point, Haas.
No.
Daryl,
100.
I'm gonna move this along.
Daryl, if
Yeah.
I could
100
just
feet.
make a process point.
Yeah.
I-
Well, may I
we-
finish, please?
Well,
Well, Haas, we're,
we're an hour into the meeting and we're
Yeah.
supposed to be starting the workshop.
I don't want to
now.
shut you down, but we're getting off
I've got-
track a little
I
bit.
just got one thing to say.
Okay, quick.
It's 200 feet.
Yeah.
20 feet is 20% of that. 10 feet, which is above this, is 5% of it.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if we aren't there much shorter than 50 or 70 years. Okay,
All right,
but that's
thanks.
beside, the point is,
All right, well,
let's have the conversation we need to have in the community.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll thank you, Haas. We appreciate your energy and your passion in this, and we'll move on from there. I think we've got some other, I think Matt's suggestion of let's get some other
Should I
ideas.
pursue that,
So
that option?
I'm in
I
favor
can-
of that.
If you'd like, I could give you a list of people who I think would be interested right now, or I could just email
We
that
can
to
email
you.
it. Yeah,
I'll
we don't
email
need to do it
you and-
now.
Okay.
We don't need to do it now.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's the board's on that, but we'll move things along here. So,
I'd be interested.
I would.
we'll, we can discuss that.
thank you,
All right.
guys.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Shari, thank you. Yep.
And we do
Yeah.
appreciate what you do.
Real quick, Shari, we got to move along.
I believe you were talking about the one with the boardwalk that was tanked. I do recall the description when we had the boardwalk and extending over the riprap. Yes, we did tank the ship idea when it was associated with that. This, I
Okay.
think, is completely a different approach. It's just the morphing of the wall
Yeah.
and the image.
Right. Yeah. No, we
So,
understand that,
yeah.
Shari. Yeah, there's other
No,
issues.
but
Thank you. Yeah.
Just saying that if that's the idea,
Thank
that's
you.
the one we tanked
Get
prior.
that
Okay,
committee,
yeah.
Tom's gonna be on it, Lou's gonna be on it.
Just a
Be on it.
Yeah.
point for everybody here. The microphone, if we could watch that, poor Jeff over here with his earphones is, if it gets bumped or tapped, you're doing all right, but just so we can be aware of that. I see
Yeah.
Jeff jumping over here, so.
You guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, we'll let along here, Matt. Get
I
some
don't know if
time.
there's any other citizen communications or not. I don't have any
Don't
written
see.
communications. Next, if you have anything, Shari, okay.
Oh, good guys, okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
move along to
So-
your, your notes here.
Board direction on September 28th, public meeting on waterfront improvement. So I have part of that
Just
direction.
do that. Wait.
I have part of that direction, but there's, as you know, there's quite a bit more in the 30% drawings. Now, the board has already reviewed and a positive nod to the 30% drawings. That was when the consultant met with you at the YMCA a couple months ago. If you want to make changes in that, we need to waive the red flag right now. Because he's starting on the 60% drawings at this point. Okay, so we're having the 30% design. The 30% design is the base that we're working from. So
Okay.
I guess I need some affirmation that that's where you want to go. Do you want to have another meeting with just the board and the consultant team? Do you think that would be appropriate, or what would you like at this point?
I think if we went to the meeting the other night and we saw the 30%, Daryl didn't get a chance to get there. but
I watched the
I think
video. I've
when
seen
we-
it and everything.
I know
yeah.
when Mark and I left, we seemed to be pretty much on the same page.
Okay,
I
Yeah.
don't know what Tom and
No,
Lou thought, but
I heard a 3-foot wall with those block things that.
The logs.
Oh,
Yep.
there's, and we have to get some, and this will come with the 60%. We need some definitive recommendations from the consultant on where we have those view corridors. So
Right.
the idea was it would be a solid 5-foot wall, and of course, with however we want to design that wall, but with sections that would be open from the 3-foot to the 5-foot level so that people could view the harbor. But that's the plan. We don't know, though, exactly where those sections would
Yeah,
be.
because they're gonna look at it, design it
They're
structurally.
gonna,
see
they
where
have
they'll
to,
fit in.
they
Yeah.
have to look at costs. They have to look at the workload that's going to be involved when those slats have to be put in
Right,
an
yeah.
emergency. So that's yet to come, but it is a 5-foot wall.
Yeah.
We are designing for 13.1 foot elevation.
But
But
can we
with
get
the
specific
logs-
as to how much of the wall is 5 foot and where it's?
Well, that's what they're gonna work on.
That's what we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you design that in.
and one of the concerns I had when they talked about, all hands on deck to put these logs in, and when they discussed the town landing about putting a post in the middle of it. And I did talk to Matt about, there's a lot of silt, there's a lot of debris that goes down in these places, and, you cleaning it out, you're trying to scurry around in water, and how's it gonna mount? Is it gonna, erode, kind of corrode and, that type of thing
Yeah.
needs to be in the scenario.
Well, that's got to be addressed one way or the other. Because you gotta-
Right.
Oh, definitely. And
And
that's gotta be a
that was
design
one of my
issue that-
initial concerns,
Yeah.
if you're gonna call the volunteer, put all this stuff up, and you gotta train these people, and you train, and then when you go to put it up, and you can't get a post in.
Yeah.
Right.
Another thing that you have to consider, if you bring in volunteers, you also have an insurance
Yeah.
liability.
Yeah.
Somebody gets injured, you could be paying them a pension the rest of their life.
But I think they were talking about certain departments, but I
Sure,
think they
we
need,
were-
I think.
Yeah.
You have to have it, yeah.
you've
We need
got-
to, we need to find out what the requirements would be, as I said, for labor in this type of situation. But I'm not talking about having volunteers come in. We need to tap into our fire department personnel who are paid on a per diem basis, and then the public works crew.
Yeah.
So
Existing
that's what we're
existing
doing. Just-
infrastructure.
I mean,
yeah.
we put out sandbags now. So,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the same
And-
group of people.
And the other thing that I mentioned to Matt was, it's all fine and dandy when we have this wall out there, but if you saw the slide that had all the other elevations on the backside on Elm Street Plaza area, the water's still gonna get in.
Yeah, the water will get in on the north side.
So-
That's something we,
So I just want to make sure everybody understands
that's-
that if
yeah.
you saw the slide and you saw the elevations, that,
right, no. is
there's
it-
still
You're
some,
right. You're absolutely right, Josh. The committee was aware of that all the time.
so
Yeah,
we may have tunnel vision on the wall, but there's other aspects and areas
We
that
do,
you
we
need to figure it
we
out.
do have if we go back to the original drawing from Malone and McBroom, the drawings that they produced, we do have some conceptual ideas on what that would look like on the north side, but it is private property. The impact in the 1% flood zone is on one building, private property. So that's something that the Bangor Savings is going to have to address. And I've reviewed it with their predecessors, but I need to talk to the officials at Bangor Savings as well. But it's not forgotten. It's just that this is the public part of the project that affects the most businesses.
But I thought someone might pick up on that the other night, but.
Yeah, on
no
that
one-
slide.
No one did.
And Mike Zarba could have addressed it because his firm did do that work.
Okay. So right now on are we in agreement? We're moving them along? That's
Right, they're moving to
60%?
the 60%, and I can send you the 30% design drawings again, if you'd like. And as Josh said, you saw the presentation, which covers the major points of that design. Another item that came up had to do with the the idea of having a crosswalk through the department. The waterfront committee said, no way, part of our mission is to train parking spaces as we can.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about a loss of 5 spaces.
Yeah.
I think that's something that can wait till the discussion of the 60% design, but I want to make sure that that's on your radar, that there's a difference of opinion there.
All right,
That's
anything-
basically it.
Okay. Well, let's move along while we're spending money here. Let's go to number 2.
Yeah, other light topics
Yeah.
here. As I shared with
Yeah.
you, the ambulance board of directors met a couple of weeks ago, and they had a proposed budget in front of them. And I appreciate the fact that the CLC ambulance staff are starting well ahead of the start of their fiscal year, because they want to see if what they're proposing is going to be supported. What they had recommended wasn't sufficient enough for at least three of the communities that were represented at that meeting. Tom can certainly add to that. They requested that the staff come back with a proposal that implemented, in addition to what they had recommended in terms of pay increases, a pay plan, a pay range, pay grades for the employees. And I don't think anybody, I want to make this clear, I don't think anybody has any question about the quality of service that they get through a CLC ambulance and the competence of the people that work there. But I do think it's a role for the board to look at expenditures and the impact that they have on the towns and our taxpayers. What we're looking at here is a $110,000 increase. The cost of the ambulance service when I first started here was $2,400 a year. So I think we just need to, I'm jumping ahead and I'm kind of jumping into the policy area here, but I really think the board needs to take a close look at what's being requested in the detail of the budget. And maybe we get to this 183,000 at some point, but do we have to do it in 1 year?
And that remind me that that's coming off of the previous year too. We had 100% jump or so, right?
Yeah,
That was 30 something and-
it went from about 34,000 to 73,000.
76.
Or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
76.3.
76.3, you're right.
So I
Yep.
mean, it's over 150,000 in what, 2 years? And you kind
Yeah,
of have to
yeah.
scratch your
So-
head and the light bulb goes off. Hey, you probably ought to pay attention here.
Right.
So I
Well,
did share with you my communications with the ambulance company and their response. They do plan to do some fundraising, but not to the level that they did in prior years when they were looking at replacing the ambulances. So I don't know if you have any feedback for Tom. Tom probably has some thoughts, yeah.
It's hard to reiterate what the chief presented in this forum because it was quite extensive, his arguments. And it comes down to trying to maintain the service levels and also to be competitive in order to attract and maintain the staff, because he feels that his pay range is below some of the competitor cities, and they're attracting people, and his people are working overtime, and he's concerned about being able to maintain even those people because it doesn't have a career path kind of set up. It's sort of like people who want to do this for a while and then they lose interest and move on. But I think there was general agreement by all the towns there that the service, as Matt said, is excellent. The only question is, how do we maintain it? And I think that the chief is calling out and saying, well, maybe it's not 183,000, but you got to do something because I can't keep this going. I mean, that was the bottom line that I took. I would almost, I hate to say this, but I almost suggest it might be helpful because like I said, you can't recharacterize his whole argument in a few words. To have him come and meet with the entire
Definitely.
Yeah.
board to make his
Yeah.
pitch. And I think I would like to, I met with him today and I'd like to spend a little more time with him to sharpen his presentation because he's very enthusiastic. He's a very smart kid. And he rolls out a lot of information, but it's not always in a manner that's easily digestible. So, before he comes to us, I'd like to spend some time with him.
I can schedule that for October 20th if you'd like,
I'd say the same.
if they're
Yeah.
available.
Same workshop
Fine.
available.
Yeah.
But, to put it in perspective, we're still would be paying a lot less than, let's say, Booth Bay paid last year. 383,000, and they are, granted, they have a larger population, but in terms of calls, it's more consistent. And the other thing you have to realize is that some towns are not happy with the allocation process, and namely, it was in the paper last week that Bristol thinks that it should be, South Bristol should be based on the tax value of the property, the number of calls, and the expense per call in Damascata is far higher than it is in South Bristol, yet their allocation going forward for the 22 budget is higher than Damascata's. Competition amongst the towns for splitting the pie here. So I think it's really important that we gave them the opportunity to make this pitch to everybody here.
That sounds good.
And there was talk about redoing the bylaws as well, some of the talk. And I guess my concern from that is, they have to pay the staff, I get that, but there are other aspects within the budget that maybe they can trim. I didn't hear any of those questions come up.
Yeah.
Um,
But if you look at the line items, not a lot of them moved a lot. It was mostly all payroll.
So, and I guess the only thing is, if people do get upset about how things are split up and whatnot, then I know school systems have a weighted vote where you have more votes per how much you pay on the board. So,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
so if that's gonna, that's just a possibility for anything ever should come out and they want to redo the bylaws. If we're paying a significant percentage, then maybe we get another vote and everybody stays at one, and other people that pay more get another vote too.
Things we can bring up. Yeah, with, Mark, I think you had something.
Yeah, and what I'd like to add to this though is, this service is, top A plus.
Mhm.
But I think what happened with this service is if you look back over the last 4 or 5 years, they've been behind and things slid back. So what's happening is we're getting this hit all at one time. Because if you look at the wages and stuff, they're trying to come up to those competitive wages. And they did some replacing in some ambulances, they were behind.
Right.
And I think what they got to do is get this so that curve is more of a flat line for all the towns so that they can understand a little bit better. It's just unfortunate that we're in this situation where we're
Yeah.
getting this spike.
We're gonna have to do something. He's basically saying, calling for help. It sounds untenable. He doesn't think he can keep it together with the current rate, so something's gonna have to happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's put our questions together we'll have Nick come in on the 20th and. Yeah. So if we have any questions,
Soon as he can
comments?
come in, yep.
Yeah, sounds great. All right, Matt, we have a public works storage shed.
So let me just go to this other one, because we were talking about October 20th. I've asked
Sorry,
I've asked
skipped over that tonight.
Bob Fonts to come in to do a workshop following a regular meeting. And the reason for that is there's a number of, and you've seen it on the planning board agenda. I know that I've sent to you and their minutes. There's a number of key ordinances I want to make sure that the board is familiar with because you're going to be getting questions.
Mhm.
You know, Bob and the committee have talked about, and the planning board have talked about some significant changes in the zoning and this idea of a formula business ordinance where this would prevent basically a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts going downtown. So it's really important that the board be aware of those types of issues. So I've asked Bob to come in and talk about that.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, not surprising, this is happening in all the public safety areas. There's a lot of competition for employees. You know, we heard it from the ambulance service. The police chiefs met with the town managers in the 4 towns that have police departments the other day, the 4 towns in the county. And those chiefs have concern about recruitment and retention. So I asked our chief to come in and give the board a summary of those issues. So, but we're seeing the pressures for tax increases, and we just need to be able to look at it as a whole.
We got to get ahead of it and
So,
see where. we're at. So, yeah.
And then I did ask, and I'm going to ask him to make it quicker than he was because we're running kind of short on time, and Don's been great about waiting here. But I want Hugh to give you an update. Maybe if you could relinquish the table there, Haas. Hugh to
Kick me out, Haas. Thank you.
Hugh to give you an update.
See ya, Haas.
This is an issue that came up during your discussions on the budget
Mhm.
and what type of shed we needed. I sent you some pictures of what our current storage facility looks like, our 2 facilities. They're in sad shape, to say the least. Hugh had donated that tent quite a few years ago, and it's
Got a sunlight in that tent.
there's a lot of sunlight. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to pay for a skylight.
For a
for
light,
that.
no,
Yeah.
we're saving electricity.
So Hugh has some ideas that he wanted to share, and yeah, go ahead.
A new
I don't wanna
tent?
steal your
I'm
thunder.
truly worried if I put another tarp over that tent. That tent is a military tent, but it's aluminum and the salt has gotten at it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's already taken out the bottom. And I'm worried about the rivets and stuff in the higher portions of it.
What's in that tent primarily?
Well, it changes from season to season. Right now, that what's in there is the snow blower and the spreader that go on the whacker nuisance.
Yeah.
The billy goat leaf sucker.
Some
But
significant dollar amounts.
yeah,
anyway.
dollar amounts. And then, but what would go in it in the winter, when I would be more fearful of it, is the brand new riding lawnmower.
Yeah.
Along with all the sweepers that we have, the 2 sweepers, and I put most of the attachments in there, so everything's kind of undercover. The shed is collapsing. It's, I've repaired the floor by you putting in old road signs, and it's rotted out on one side, and it's rotted out on the side that the wind would take it, give it a good heave-ho. So, but the shed would probably last longer than that tent would, but I'm worried about the tent for this year. And I'm
Mhm.
bringing that as a concern to you guys. Now, to rent a container, 40-foot long container, is about $110 a month. There's a $350 charge to deliver it and to pick it up. That has to be paid up front, plus first and last month. So
And this is a container like you would see on a container ship.
Yeah, Conex.
Yeah.
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 fine.
And this is, and obviously, yeah, this is a temp.
Temporary solution under a rental agreement. There's plenty of room out back to put it. And because I removed the steel pile and leveled off things out there, so there's plenty of
Would that give
room.
you the capacity you have now or more or less or what?
I'm hoping I could get it all in.
Between the shed and the tent?
Well, I would try not to use the tent as much as possible. Take anything of value out of there and put it in the container. I might leave the traffic cones in there, put barrels in there, get the stuff out of the shed that, when that shed is all packed up with all your trash bins, all your barrels, all your traffic control, you can barely walk down the middle of it.
Swing across the
I think-
rafters.
Yeah.
What Tom is asking is that with the container put out of the weather, all of the stuff that needs to be gotten out of the weather. And I think
would-
the answer is yes.
It'd be really close.
Okay.
I'll put it that way, really close.
I think the other thing we have to consider is if we take and we go to the logs on the wall, where are those going to be stored?
Well, that's something that needs to be taken into account when we get there, which is quite a few years off.
Yeah,
I don't know
but
if that
still, it
came up,
has to
but
be
it is. Yeah,
considered.
that is something that we'll have to take it into account.
I think we are remiss that we have all this equipment sitting in tents in a shack. I don't know about you guys, but I could always use a nice new riding tractor.
There's no,
He got one a couple of years ago because I hauled it home for him.
I know.
there's
you
no
help-
lock on
you
that
help pick it
tent,
out.
is there, Hugh?
But I can always use.
No
another.
lock, there's no lock there either.
Yeah.
No.
What is, what's your long-term proposal? Obviously, short-term
Well,
with
I
a,
am
with a shed,
Hoping
you know.
that you put up a fairly good building that the whacker nuisance can drive in, pick up a piece of equipment, drive out.
Right.
You might have to play dominoes kind of thing, move this stuff around during the years, during the seasons, but it's usable and it should have enough growth built in it so that if you do have wall parts that you need to put undercover, there's space to start anyway.
Proper building on a concrete slab.
Yeah.
So on and so
Concrete
forth,
slab,
yeah.
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 But
And
going
I've been
in-
looking into that. I've only got one bid back now. What I was proposing was a 14-foot wide, 40-foot long on a concrete pad, 9-foot ceiling height. You figure out the pitch, one door on it, and I've got one bid back for $37,000.
Hmm.
So most people are too busy. Talk to me next fall. I
Yeah.
might be able to do
Yeah.
it in 23.
Right.
That's the way the contractors
So
are.
it sounds like the short-term situation is the Rent-A-Conix box.
Or
Should be
buy,
contained.
Yeah.
Or buy it.
you can buy
Buy
it.
it.
Buy one.
Four to
Yeah,
six,
there's
yeah.
$6,000. It used to be 4, but they're
Yeah.
going up.
Yeah.
And, but a 40-foot one, you're always gonna be able to use it.
If we buy one, we get a high cube, which it takes your ceiling height up to 9 or 9.6.
So we bought that one for the school.
Yeah, we got two of them.
Two of
now.
them.
Gotcha, yeah.
That would
What's
be,
a,
you know,
what's
if
a,
you're gonna, because reality is, we're talking about this for a year. That rent's going right into something. We might as well just buy it because you can always use that
yeah,
Yeah,
for storage, you know.
Yeah.
it's-
And if you can always sell it too. if you
That's
wanna
right.
get rid of it.
Sell it.
yeah.
You could turn it into a police locking facility too.
Or you
You
can
know.
store your aluminum logs.
yeah.
Or you can have, or you can
Yeah.
have two of them. and
What's
put presents
the,
on
Hugh,
it.
what's the
Yeah,
turnaround time of
it's-
getting a hold of one and getting one in for you?
Scarborough
rental.
actually gave me the cost of those prices and they were the cheapest for rental.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of making a phone calls,
Yeah,
getting.
or, and to buy one.
Yeah,
Same.
you could do it in a day. They go down, all of the local people that sell these things, they have their own truck and trailer and
Yeah,
they go
they bring them
right
right-
down to the yards
Yeah.
in Boston, New Jersey, wherever they have them and they buy them and then they sell them to us.
I think-
That's
Well, I
how
think
it
I-
we
works.
have
That's how
bylaws.
the system works.
Agree with
Yeah.
Mark and Josh and this point that, yeah, for the cost associated with it, even if we get ahead and get a building started, you're still gonna need storage
Yeah,
while long-term, so it would make more sense probably to purchase it.
Well,
Yeah.
we have a really nice round building there. Yeah, it's kind of cool. We have a tent that holds salt, which works rather well. But, you should, when you do build this shed, you should be thinking about appearance.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's gonna be a
How
lot
the
of thought
town
to have to
is
go
gonna
into that.
perceive
Yeah.
this the appearance of this building,
Short
even though
term.
it might be out back where nobody sees it.
What do we have in the budget?
You're fine, because we have 15,000 to buy it,
We
right?
do. The concern that I had
Mhm.
with the container was the appearance, but he has found a place. He's actually put some recycled asphalt down, and it's hidden from view. I mean, my concern was more long-term with the housing development that may occur out there. You know, we don't want an eyesore for the people living there, but
Oh, the
if
boxes
we,
can be
if we can
moved.
tuck it in the back and at some point, if we can build a nice shed, that's good. But I agree. We've got $15,000 available. So if you're, how would you like to handle that? Do you want Hugh to get quotes, or do you want a specific quotes and I'll come back to you October 20th? Or do you want to waive charter bidding
No.
requirements?
Sooner the better.
Yeah,
I'd say
We don't need to
we
wait.
agreed before to 15,000 to change the charter thing to 15,000, so we haven't changed the charter yet. so-
Change it, but why don't we get him, have to get him a couple quotes, but get back, we don't need to wait till the 20th. We should do it as soon as.
Soon as
Do
we
you
can.
do you want to authorize us to go forward for an amount not to exceed 7,000?
no,
Okay.
That would
no?
give him an option
I-
if he,
Right.
sorry. That would give him an option too, to add a door, just a regular door on one end.
Mhm.
And then you could actually petition off a section, so you can have a little, store some stuff, and then the other side opens up so that you can store whatever, but you do have that other small section that you could, because
With the purchase,
we had a door put on ours. and
yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty handy.
I would like to make a motion that we purchase a cubicle, what do you want to call it?
Container.
container.
Not to exceed the budget amount, and have the purchase approved by Matt.
And then you just need to waive the charter guidelines
Yep.
on bidding, the $5,000
Yep.
limit.
Okay, who's moving that? All right, do we have a second?
Are we putting 7,000?
We're gonna,
His motion
He said
is
15. He said
within the
Yeah.
15, but
I'd rather do the 7, but
I just think it
Here's
might
what
be
it
more
is.
than $7,000. Then we get
Compromise,
back
make it
through it
10.
again.
How about 10?
I think you'll find.
What do you think?
I think you could get the container for like 6. There's the delivery cost, which we could take out of my budget.
Yeah.
So, added little things like that. The work can come later.
Seven would cover it.
Yes,
Think
7
so?
will
Then
definitely.
Sure.
do it.
I'll change it
Yeah.
from
Make your
15 to 7.
okay.
Is that all right?
Yes.
And if you need more, you'll have to get back. to
take it out of Lou's paycheck.
Take it out of
Sure.
the paycheck. All right.
us. Sure.
So Lou's motion is he's approving the purchase up to 7,000,
$7,000.
waiving the big guidelines.
Yeah.
And we're giving Matt the go ahead to approve that purchase. Okay. I'll second that. Nobody else says. Second. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Thanks.
You get us
Another
a,
long day for you.
Yeah.
get your box and we'll get a lock on it. All right, Matt.
Just really quick on the comprehensive plan committee, I just wanted to put out a call for volunteers when people watch this on their YouTube station. That we're looking for volunteers. Shari had already volunteered. We've got the Land Use Advisory Committee members, many of whom have volunteered to be on this extremely important committee. And anyone who has questions, send me a note, give me a call.
How many are you looking for, Matt? How many do we need?
I don't think we need a top set limit. If we had 9 or 10,
Okay.
like we did last time, I think that would be good.
All
Good
right.
cross section. We need a cross section of the community.
Gotcha.
That's all I had.
Okay. That was a lot. And, yeah. All right. Skip over, are you doing anything with the assessing agent? Is that on? Do I have another one here?
So are we on a official action?
Yeah, I guess we're moving on to official action now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreement.
Agreement.
The
with me.
agreement, yeah,
Yeah, that was a little bit too optimistic on my part. I don't have that
Mhm.
yet.
okay,
But I sent you all the note
Yeah.
received
Yeah.
from the MDOT liaison to the legislature, and she said they're working on it now. They have it in
Okay.
draft, and they're going to send it to us soon. So hopefully I'll have that for you for October
Good.
20th.
so we'll table that, yep. All right, do we want to accept the ARPA funds here?
I make a
I
motion
think
to
we just,
accept-
Yeah.
we just accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. End of this, Matt, I'll ask you, it's come up once about, yeah, staffing and having somebody do it. The ideal situation, we've got it, somebody to do it and check on it. Well,
Okay.
we all know we're not into that right now. Is there a way that the general public, so somebody using it can address issues if they come in like, oh man, the toilet's overflowing, is there a number, something posted?
This is something we've intended to do, but haven't
Yeah.
had to.
Yeah.
But we will be posting what to do if you see a mess in here.
Yeah, just,
And we've lined up mid-coast to come in and address any significant issues. And we have an agreement with them to do that. But most of the issues Hugh's going to be able to handle.
So I should not put your cell phone number on the wall.
I prefer you not
Yeah.
myself.
I guess,
I'll be right back.
I guess my question on this is, with this upcoming weekend, is are we ramping up a patrol and a cleaning of this?
We will.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I think I'd mentioned before was that cleaning in the morning, cleaning in the afternoon. We spend that kind of money for this. We have to maintain.
Yes.
Oh, especially,
Well, I mean,
especially this
Yeah,
weekend.
if you clean it in the morning, you're kind of taking care of the day before, the night before.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a budget question. I think we've been very fortunate, and hopefully this continues. It's the people that we have visiting our town are not those that would do vandalism and make a mess of it.
And
And like I say, there's a difference of opinion on what caused this mess in there.
things happen. Like I said, I've
Yeah.
dealt with the public bathroom for a very long time,
Yeah,
so
but
I don't know the details, but
I think yes, we can address it at budget time again. But a lot of it's going to go away when we get that 40-hour week person in the season, during the season.
That's all I had.
I'll pass tonight. I've got nothing to add. Mark?
One of the things, concerns, which I think Matt is addressing is, we've talked about this before, is the Belvedere intersection. It just seems like it's happening more and more and more. It's just, someone's gonna get killed. And, well, I don't know why we haven't had somebody.
Well, they have, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think we gotta be a little more aggressive on that somehow. My
If you
other,
want, I can mention something there.
Yeah.
We had a meeting with the Public Safety and Accessibility Committee a week and a half ago, and the fellow from MDOT, who I hadn't met yet, he must be one of the replacements there, did say that they are working on trying to make that intersection safer. I followed up the next day and said, when do you want to meet with me and the chief to do it? And I got a response back saying they're in the process of collecting data. I can forward that email to you, but I see that as the top state priority in Damascata. I know school streets, people are concerned about that intersection. People are concerned about School and Bristol Road, that intersection. But I just think that when you're looking at the speeds and the traffic that goes through.
severity of the
on bypass
injuries that
and the
occur.
severity, that I don't know, there's no question that that's a
Yeah.
priority, and we're going to be the squeaky wheel on that.
yeah, we need to, and it's frustrating to see the state. We're gonna get some more data. How much more data that we've been doing this for years, since I've been on this board. We talk about it. They do study after
Well,
study. It's just frustrating.
They did have a solution. You may recall that a couple of you served on, well, Robin was one. I can't remember who else served on a bypass, Route 1 bypass audit, safety audit, where they met on site, they went out, and they came up with recommendations that they did implement. Now, whether those recommendations,
So
I question them, but
So the bollards that they put up, I mean, everything was going good, they take them out for the winter and then
Yeah.
put them back in the spring. And within the first week, we had like 2 major accidents there
Yeah,
within
with
the
the
first
bollards.
week with the bollards.
yeah, so that's what came out of that safety audit. That needs to be looked at again.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
You keep pushing on them.
And I guess,
Yeah.
my simple solution was, why not extend the 45-mile-an-hour limit to include that intersection?
There's a sign that just says they recommend it. That's all it is.
Right.
And the
But-
police say they can't.
Well, it is a top priority.
Anyways, yes, I appreciate,
Squeaky wheel.
yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have in here, looking at where we're going with this project with the town parking lot. I do think that what we should look at doing is, we want to make sure that we're going to do something. We do know that the cost of increases of everything is going to come into this play. So my feeling is we should have like a base bid that takes care of your drainage that we want to improve on and paving your parking lot. And then have an alternate 1, 2, and 3 on your wish list, because I'd hate to see us go ahead and do all this work and put it together and we come up that much short. And then we're trying to backtrack a little bit, where if you want to take the base bid, which one of the things we want to do is the drainage, make the parking lot nice, and then go to your alternates, you can add those right in to take your total number. And then it just,
I think that's what they were trying
I
to do.
I don't know if I understand you, Mark, because that's the recommendation, is to go ahead with, and we were able to get EDA to approve that. And I'm sure I've shared this with you before. We'll do the project in phases, and they've allowed us to go ahead with that first phase that includes the drainage, taking care of the huge drainage problem, and the reconstruction of the parking lot. And then the second phase would only be done if there's enough money, but those would be bid out separately, the second phase being the wall and the park improvements. So they've allowed us to go ahead and spend the rest of the money, which is approximately $3 million, on those basic items, And then if that's not enough to include the wall and the park, which it probably won't be, then they've invited us to reapply for more money. So that's the plan going forward. And
So-
yeah, that's what we reviewed last Tuesday night, and I talked to you previously about that.
Now, my question is on that 5-foot wall, that's going to be an alternate or it has to be in part of the bid package?
That has to be EDA, and again, I think I shared this with you. EDA has said, and FEMA has said, that has to be part of the package. Or it doesn't, if it's not part of the package, then we will not get a conditional letter of map revision. They want a 13.1 foot elevation wall.
All right, my request then would be, is that line item for the wall be a line item so that it can't be like, if you had that lumped into a base bid,
Well, it won't be.
it won't be a
No,
line
that's
item.
what I've said is that
Would be an
that's
alternative.
the second phase.
Okay,
If that wall, if including that wall is too expensive, that'll be part of the second phase.
okay.
Now, part of the first phase does include, and these are gonna be relatively small cost items, the sidewalk up to Water Street and Taco Alley. You know, the paved stone or whatever we do there. That will be part of the base bid.
Okay.
Because those are relatively small items.
I just want to make sure we're going to get some.
Yeah, the bid will be split.
My other question is, I'd like to see us finish off, get that agreement with the sanitary district so that that is not going to be brought up again with us about those lines under the parking lot. I know that we got an agreement. I'd like to see it finalized so that we have something, so that whoever's on this board won't have to deal with what we've been dealing.
Are you asking for more than the letter that they sent us?
Oh, there should be an agreement where we turn it over, right? We spent money. We need to turn that over to
And then
them
they-
and get it all
And
finalized.
they have essentially done that, but maybe there's something more formal that we.
I think we should, not
Okay,
just a
yeah.
letter.
All right.
Because we have the letter, but you're
We
suggesting.
have the
like
letter
almost like a
saying that they
deed
will be
transfer or
responsible.
something.
Yes,
And
yes.
they
Okay.
accept it. I
Yeah.
think that
I think
that
it's,
was what we asked them to do.
well, I think that's important for us to make sure it's done because I'd like to know how many, I was on the other side with the sewer board too, where we were hammering away at this. Now I'm being on this board and we're still hammering away at it. I'd like to see it be put behind us in writing, done with. Even though we got a letter, let's finish it
Yeah.
legally.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Could we check with town council? So to speak,
Yeah,
see if
well, I'll check.
the letter is sufficient?
I will check with Meter and make sure that.
And make sure we don't
if
lose it.
it's not sufficient.
Lose the letter.
Yeah.
Put that up on
Oh, yeah, we
in a
should check and see
frame.
if that's a
Yeah, put it on the
sufficient
wall.
document for,
Permanent fixture in the town manager's office.
Yep. But yes, that's the point. We need stuff
It's just a
written in
letter.
stone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just got one question. It's kind of based off what Mark kind of brought up a little bit, but we're talking about alternates and we can reapply for money. Did we ever find out the question whether or not we have to raise additional funds for our matching part if we reapply? Do
We don't know that
So
one way or another. It was left open. And they're not going to give us a commitment on whether it's going to be a 20%, 80% or
I'm just-
what.
when we
It
start
depends
planning,
what's available
when
at
we
that
start
time.
planning for budgeting, we need to figure out what is our match now versus how much we're gonna come up short when the bids go out, and then we can work back from there.
Yeah.
It might be a tough thing.
I'll ask our contact at EDA, but I doubt if I'll get any more of a commitment than he's already given me. Because they don't even know what type of funds will be
Right,
available.
but once we get our bid numbers in, we need to really hammer that out pretty fast.
Yeah.
Looking on that, yeah.
And onto that is that wall is just a base bid right now. We don't know what it's going to be. Is that correct?
Well, it could be a ship with 200-foot.
I know, but will the feds come in and pay for that ship?
No,
Right,
I
right.
doubt
We
that
don't
they
know what
would.
the
No,
design
I tried to make that point earlier.
Yeah.
To the folks here that they're not going to pay for the, the add-ons, the niceties. They're going to pay for that base project.
Just the
So
basement.
somebody's going to have to do some fundraising. And,
Okay.
and
He raised his
Haas
hand.
acknowledged that.
He
Yeah.
raised his hand, didn't he?
All right now.
So even if it's 3 years down the road, we deal with the wall, that will give time to raise some money. If we have to have matching funds.
Right.
Right.
Makes sense. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? We good?
Good.
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn and go on.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? All right. Motion carries. We've got a gentleman back there that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Us, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm assuming you want this recorded, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for staying with us.
Not a problem. My wife calls me a municipal junkie because I like this sort of stuff. So, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come back and be part of your process to hire a new manager. Let me take my glasses off. 'Cause it's Steve. And so I'm Don Garish. Some of you know me. I was here 11 years ago, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we went through this process, and actually I was your interim town manager for 4 months while we went through the process. So it's good to be back and see some familiar faces, but it's also a note where we've got to go through a process again. So I appreciate the opportunity. For those that don't know me, I'm a retired Maine municipal manager. I had 38 years in the profession, mainly 10 years in Gorham, and I retired out of Brunswick after 20 years in the profession. Last 10 years, 11 years, I've worked for Peabody Consulting Group, doing what we're doing here, helping communities hire managers. I do interim work. We've done 50, 60 of these searches over the years, and I think we've been pretty successful in it. We had a success here, so that's always good to come back to the community where you had a success. And so I know let me take it. I misunderstood when Matt was leaving. I thought he was leaving at the beginning of the year. So when I sent out the time frame to you, it was a short time frame because I thought we had to do it. But knowing that he's not leaving until end of the fiscal year, right, in June?
For June 30th.
We have
Unless someone's not told me something.
Well,
Surprise.
Well, we'll see how the bathroom gets cleaned this week.
Have you tried to talk him into another 5 years?
That's your job. That's not my job. So, but let me talk a little bit about what's happening in searches today, because you need to understand that. I am doing 6 searches right now. I'm doing Millnocket, Gardner, Augusta, Bar Harbor and Southwest Harbor. I just finished up Farmington, and I did finished up Kennebec County for their searches. And it's difficult today to find qualified people to be a manager. 5 years ago, when we did Bar Harbor, we had 50 applications. We just finished it yesterday, and we have 16 this time around.
Yeah.
In most places, we did Southwest Harbor. We got 6 the first time. We didn't find anybody, went back out. This time we have 10, so we have a few more. But it's not uncommon that first time around, you don't find somebody, just to let you know. It's difficult out there, and there's a number of reasons, and I can give you the reasons why. People aren't in the profession. Younger people are not involved in the profession. University of Maine used to have a program that you went to school for 4 years to be a manager. That was done away with about 10 years ago. It's difficult being a manager. You know, the trust and the civility and everything that's going on, people don't want to get into the profession. People aren't moving. People who have a good job aren't applying and aren't moving. COVID has made it real difficult. And big one today is housing costs for someone that may move or have to pull up roots and move. It's real difficult. The other thing is many families, two people are working, a manager and their spouse, and if their spouse can't get a job someplace, it causes a problem. So having said all that, we do find managers. And as I say to the elected officials, it only takes one person. And we did that last time because we had one great person here to look at. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about what's happening in the profession. And so the question is, when do we start this? When do we actually start this process? Because it's going to take at least 3 months, 3.5 months to go through the process to have somebody that you've agreed to hire for the position. And part of that is you go through it, you advertise, you hold meetings, you do interviews, and and the person you hire, most likely will have to give 30 days or maybe even 45 days today. So you're talking, I would say 4 months to be sure. So if we're looking in June, we ought to start in February with the process to start it and move it on. The next part of the question is what's the process going to be? How are we going to do this? Usually, the timeline I sent you is something that we'll redo, but first thing we normally do is put the timeline together. We lay out exactly how we're going to do it and the times, when things are going to happen. And that's for your purposes, my purposes, and the candidates, because many candidates apply for a number of jobs and they need to know what the process is going through. So we'll have to work out that timeline. And a couple of things that is important, there needs to be a commitment from all of you to be at all the meetings, all the interviews, because candidates need to meet and see who their boss is going to be. And you all need to be part of that. So we need to do that. The other part is anybody else going to help in the process? Are you going to have a committee or not? Or is it just going to be the select board? Because that needs to be factored into the process if we're going to do it. One of the things that we've started, and I don't think we did it here, but we've done this the last 8 or 9 years. We give the employees, department heads, the opportunity I asked them 2 questions. What are the issues facing Damariscotta in the next 5 years? And that can be anything, and what they're looking for in a new town manager. So we get input from your staff and employees. I also hold a public session here, invite the public to come in and ask them the same 2 questions. I put a document together. It's not going to say this person said this or that. It just lists what we hear, and it starts to paint a picture of what people are thinking about, our issues, and what they're looking for in a manager. That's worked out pretty well. I don't think we did that.
No, we didn't do it last time.
No, but that's something that it allows people to feel part of the process, get their input in. You've got to manage expectations so they don't think they're going to have a vote on this, but it allows that to happen. So that's something you'll have to decide if you want done, but it's something I've been doing that the last 8, 9 years, and it's worked out really well. I think it helps the community know what's going on. So we do that. One of the other things that we've done, and this is clearly your call, when there are finalists, maybe you have 1 or 2 finalists, is to bring them back and let the public meet them. It's called a meet and greet. And this is and it's not one where you come in and you ask questions, but you get to meet candidates, their spouses, because again, it gives people an opportunity to be part of the process. So we've done that. And some places have allowed department heads to interview the finalists, some haven't. If you want your department heads to interview the finalists, I sat in on that meeting. They ask questions. They don't get to vote, but I ask them, what what are the positives? What concerns do you have? And then I'll relay that to the board. So that's a little bit about the process we've used over the past few years. We've been successful. So that's pretty much the way I see it. I'll answer any questions and we can go from there. I'll redo, I did redo the ad from last time. I added a little more information in the front of the ad about the community, and I took that from your website. I'll need to get employees and budget. I didn't have that, but that was just to give you an idea of what the ad. And I tried to look to see how many applications we had last time. I think it was 20 or 25, as I remember.
Yeah,
Josh.
I think so, somewhere in there.
And we went through the process. So that's where we are. I'll answer any questions from tonight. I just really need to know when we should start this. And I'm thinking in January or February, we should start thinking
Okay.
about doing this.
I don't know.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We ought to talk to him and see if that works for him, for Matt. That work for you, for your schedule?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you don't think we should start earlier, but well, yeah.
The issue is, you don't want to start too early because there's too long a time
Yes.
Yeah, we got a
between
little,
when
I was
you
wondering about that.
hire somebody and they actually come on board, because once you hire them, they'll have to get, if they're working, you have to give notice and they may be out. So we need to kind of think about,
you got a window there that. you gotta-
Right,
That's
right.
just right,
yeah,
yeah.
to
Yeah.
do that. And we can work that out. So that's where we are. I'm looking forward to working. One of the other things I do, once we go through the process, once we start getting applications each week, we'll advertise for about 4 weeks. That's the average that we normally do. Most candidates don't get in till the last week. That's just the nature of it. But each week I will send you all an email and tell you how many candidates we got. And I usually say how many from Maine, just so you start to see the mix. The other question is, where do you want to advertise?
That was
I'm
my-
just gonna ask you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Well, you advertise on Maine Municipal because that's free. Maine Job Bank on your website. Most communities advertise in the International City Managers Association website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's gonna, anyone looking for a manager's job anywhere will go on that site and look at it. That's gonna cost you $450 for about a month and a half ad, but that's one of your costs. I didn't talk about cost. I do this as a flat fee for $6,000. That's my cost. And if it takes 2 times going out, it's only $6,000. I'm here with you until you hire somebody. So you'll have some other costs. Advertisement's the bigger one. You'll have maybe some travel costs for me coming down, copies of, just thought I'd show you, when we get all the applications, we'll put a notebook together with all the resumes in them.
Mhm.
You'll get to see them. I will look at them and I will give you a recommendation on who I think you ought to interview, but that's clearly your call. And we'll set and look at these and decide who you want to interview. But that will be sent to you as we get closer to the process. I also do preliminary checks on any candidates that I recommend. I don't do full background checks. It's talking, I will talk to anybody that I'm recommending to you. I'll do a preliminary Google check. You'll all do that too when you get them, because everyone does it. I will draft questions for you for interviews and send those ahead of time. You can add to them, take them away, whatever you want to do. But you'll get questions from me. I'll set up everything. I'll be at the interviews to make sure they go smoothly and everything. Once you narrow it down, I will do complete background checks on any of your finalists, and that's educational, criminal, and financial checks on them. I will follow up and check references, and you'll get a report from me on each candidate with that information in it. So you'll have that as we do finalists. So that's the process and that's, so I guess the question on advertising, go with what we did last time.
Yeah.
I would recommend that we don't do, I think last time though, we put one in the local newspaper. Just to, and that will be your call if you want to do that. We don't use paper anymore because it's too expensive and it doesn't get the broad use that we think. But I remember we did one in the local paper last time we were here. That would be your decision. So.
I got a question. When you come up with candidates that you submit to the board, how many is it usually that you feel should be interviewed? Approximately, is it 2? Is it
No,
5?
no. Well, let me see. Answer it this way. Depends on the quality and the number of the applicants.
Yeah.
I'll just, if we get 4 to 6 that I recommend, I'm pleased. Just so you'll know.
Okay.
No more than 8. I've only done 8 a few times and that's many years ago when we had a lot of good candidates.
Okay.
Today, 4 to 6 in that ballpark is what we're looking at.
Thank
So,
you.
And candidates that are from away will start with a Zoom interview. Ones that are locally, we'll have them come in and do some, that's done. So that would be how we.
Just passing through, drifting through.
If you remember, I remember this, the first interview we did, Matt came on his own nickel.
Yep.
I don't know if you planned to be here or not, but I remember you came.
I knew it would be tough to break into Maine. I was competing with all these Mainers, so, I had to get here.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't usually happen. Anyone, someone from Massachusetts, New Hampshire would probably come, but if you're talking about Colorado or outside, we'll do a Zoom interview with them. So.
Great.
So that's
Great.
what we'll do. Look forward to working with you. I guess we didn't answer the one, it's just going to be you people going to do the process, right? That's what we did last time and I just,
Yeah.
I recommend it just be you.
Yeah.
Just so you know where I'm coming from.
It's simple.
You're required to hire the person, so I recommend it.
Yeah.
I'm good if
We'll
you
trust
folks
your
are.
recommendations.
Huh?
We'll trust your recommendations.
Well, but you'll get to look at all of them.
Yeah.
You'll see them and I'll tell you right now, the minute we advertise, I will get the same 6 applications I've gotten at every job I have done in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That just happens
Yeah.
out there. I'm good. If you folks are.
Yeah, thank
Any
you.
other questions for
No.
Don?
You think we got anything going on here and again? Is it pretty boring around here?
Well,
Like
I
last
think,
time
I
you were
think
here.
it's going to be challenging. I think you got a lot going on and Matt sent me the other day a list of all the projects you're going. And yeah, you're going to want somebody
Somebody ambitious.
Good.
ambitious, somebody with, I suspect, a little seasoning to help deal with all these and get you through all of them. And salary is going to be an issue too. You
Yeah.
need to understand that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know Matt's supposedly working not full-time. I don't know if that's going to, we'll need to talk about that when we get closer because today we need, normally we didn't put salary. We would ask people to give us their salary range. Today, most of the advertising sites make us put a salary range in. So you're
Yeah.
going to have to think about your salary range and benefits are important also
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Salary, retirement, health insurance, the major ones that people are looking for. So we'll need to think about that. And so
So what's the range now, Don, salary? Pretty much now.
90 to 110.
Mhm.
I'll tell you right now.
Bar Harbor was listed at, I think, 110, something wrong.
110 to 130. Sabatis just hired, that was 90 to 105. You're gonna have, not gonna have to, you need to have a range that's gonna attract a quality
Right.
person.
Right.
I firmly believe you pay for what you get.
Yep.
And you
Yep.
want someone with some experience. But the other part, I say this to everybody, you want somebody who has experience, someone who has some education ability, but you want someone that fits in your community. That's as important as anything as we do this process. So I'm good.
Good. Thank you, Don.
Thank you. Good to see you all. Thank you.
Again, thank you for your patience.
No, as I said, I go on vacation. My wife says, what are you watching the council meeting in Florida? I say, well.
I have to.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I don't know what happened to it, but I don't know. Was it?
Oh, I can send it out. I'll send it out.
Did you already send it out?
I sent it.